Life. What is real anymore? It's time to pull back the curtains of reality and explore life in the hologram. We've unlocked our library hidden deep within the matrix and are ready to take you on a tour of the cosmos. Come in as we discuss everything from spirituality, psychics, healers, ghosts, as well as UFOs, and the unknown. It's time to forget what you think you know and explore life in the hologram.
Oh, that goes so suddenly all of the time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a good something somewhere in the universe as we speak. And welcome to Life in the Hologram on the Revolution.Radio network with Caroline Bell Tumblety and Madeline Rudy. It's a Friday night and it's a little past happy hour, but we're ready to get happy.
Yes, we are.
With a world that we're living in, we got to get happy for at least 2 hours. That's for sure. So we have a card here that I pulled. I don't know if you can see it. Nope. It's like, here it is.
Yep.
It's fluorite. I am smart. I am open to learning and something new. I am organized.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and all we have to do is get Phil in here.
Okay.
Now, if I could remember the phone number, I'll tell him to call us.
Oh, I saw the phone number.
I can send it to you.
You know the phone number?
Yeah.
Really?
Not off the top of my head, and I'm not going to.
I know where it's at. So, Caroline, tell us what's going on in Scotland.
Well, we had great weather. It's been raining at night and sunny during the day. Today it got up to 70. Tomorrow's going to be up to 70 as well. So in Scotland, the weather feels different. When you have 60 degrees, it feels like 80 in New York. So 70 is really warm here. What else can I tell you? Leaves are all green. Grass is great. Everything is looking really good. I don't know. What would I say? The mood. I can't believe how fast this week went. Like Friday came up really, really quick.
It did.
And I'm not as prepared as I usually like to feel. But I feel good. I don't feel, I feel good. Like there's a lot happening and there's not a lot happening. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. What about you, Madeline? How are you? How are you doing?
Well, here we go.
Did you get it?
Where'd your camera go, Madeline? Uh-oh. I don't know where Madeline went. Can you hear me, Shari?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
It's like Mercury retrograde.
This happens every week. We get ready to do the show. We bring our guests in, and then Madeline's camera disappears.
Every week?
Well, it's been like the last maybe 3 weeks. This has been happening.
And I'm not being able to. It's like Mercury retrograde took over my phone.
I don't know. I think Madeline, she was trying to bring Phil in, and whatever happened, I don't have Madeline anymore. Let me see if I can get her on Messenger or something. Are you back, Madeline? Nope.
This is crazy.
It is.
It's like
it really is.
Has Biden taken over our?
Well, whoever took over doesn't know how to run it. Whoever.
I can't get his phone number to her. Yeah.
That's weird.
Okay. I should be able to get it to her now.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if she can get back on.
Yeah. I can try and call her again. But she's no hung it up. That's the weird thing. Because she still is one of your participants. So maybe if I...
Well, I sent her Phil's telephone number.
Okay.
So
she's on
I finally got it.
Her picture says pause. You see that? It's got the wee pause mark next to her name.
No, it's not showing up on mine.
It's not showing up on yours? Alright, I'm going to, hang on. See who's messaging me. Oh, I answered his call and I dropped out. Let's see.
You need to call her back.
So now we know what happens when calls come in. Just see if you can put me back in. Okay, I need to put her back in, but I need to remove her first. Okay. Madeline left, and now we will bring her in again. All right. Are you here?
Yeah, I went to answer Phil, and away I went into the abyss.
Did you shift timelines?
I believe I did.
So maybe you're in a better one now. My lights are starting to go out. Did you see that? Oh, my.
Our electricity's been going on and off. We had a major
they had
storm.
a big tornado, I think, in Houston.
Do they?
Oh,
yeah.
They've been. I think that everybody's just coming down on Texas right now.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, isn't Texas supposed to be the new capital of the new United States?
Yep. Cryon told us about that back in the early 90s.
That Texas would be the new capital?
Of the United States, yes.
Wow.
Outside of Dallas somewhere. And Dallas has just exploded. Population and everything else. I don't even like going anymore. And I used to live there. So.
I wonder how.
MIA?
No, it's a matter of how did we get him in here.
Do you want me to try?
But you'd have to call his home phone number.
Oh.
That's the problem.
Okay.
I gave him the phone number to get on the air, but when I answered the call, I disappeared with him.
Yeah, you did. And you froze. Like, it was like frozen. I don't know. Do you want to wait to get him to message you when his computer is up?
Yeah, or we'll bring him in at the top of the hour. How's that?
Okay. All right. That sounds like a plan.
So you guys can tell me how you're getting through all these solar flares and eclipses and, oh my gosh. Caroline, have you been cray-cray too? With all of these shifts?
Yeah.
What kind of symptoms are you going through?
Well, right now I'm calm. And I'm lighthearted. So, like, even though time is getting away from me, I don't seem to have, when I'm working, like, I'm rebuilding a website right now, so hours and hours and hours are going by, and I'm not really noticing. So this week just flew by. Friday came up, like, out of nowhere for me. The symptoms, me and my daughter, right around, I would say before the April eclipse, we started getting like vibration, like really, really vibrating. My daughter was, we were on a train and she was like, we need to get off this train right now. I didn't question her, I just got off the train. Yeah, I'm not going to question her, that's my daughter.
Okay.
Like if she's not normally like that, I should also add, that it's really unusual for her to be like that. So that was one of the things we noticed was happening. There was a point where I didn't want to be out in the moon. Like I would go out if it was overcast. I didn't want to be out in the moon, and that was actually a few nights, and then that changed. Like it seems to just flip. Like 1 minute
you're up here, and then you're up here.
Yeah, or down. Like I'm also feeling down. Yeah. So navigating, right? And I bounce things off of Madeline and Solaris. Like there's people in my life that I can say, how are you doing? And I can kind of gauge like what is happening. But we
Am
also
I going cray-cray, or is everybody going cray-cray?
Right. Or is it is it just me? It's crazy. But it's, I think we're all going through it individually and we're all experiencing different things. But I feel the very fabric of everything is changing.
You better believe it.
It is changing.
You can't. You just look at what's going on all over, and it's like, what are we in?
Yeah.
Are you guys' emotions going like this too? I'm even crying for no reason.
Yeah,
I do that. Yeah, I have been crying, but it's more. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting meditating, and it was just tears.
Yeah,
but it was remembering somebody, and it was like they were like right there. Like this person's alive. They're no dead. And it was just a hug, it was just a hug. And I was like, oh, you're here. But it was emotional. It was very emotional. Like, and I was trying to figure out, are we saying goodbye? Are we saying hello? Like, what is going on here? So yeah. What about you, Shari? What's going on?
Oh, I'm all over the place. And I've been for over a year, I went from being totally, nothing was ever wrong. I hadn't seen but one doctor in 35 years. And all of a sudden, about a year, maybe a year and a half, I started falling out of nowhere. I mean, bad falls. I have cracked ribs. I had bruises. The last one I had, just days after the eclipse, I fell on this brick pathway.
Oh, wow.
And I tried to stay conscious, and I couldn't. I blacked out, and I came out and I had blood all over me. I was a mess. So, and the other people on Facebook that I connect with going through ascension symptoms, we're all, right now, it seems like we're real dizzy. We're lightheaded.
Mm-hmm.
We're, some people are falling like I have fallen. And our eyes have you guys had blurry vision a lot?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I'm wearing my glasses all the time, and I'm still, like this. Yeah. So we're going through something,
Is it vertigo? Like the falling down, the getting dizzy? Is that like Because I remember at the beginning, COVID, like 2020, friends, neighbors were experiencing vertigo, and they were being put on medication for vertigo. And I kind of wonder what some of these symptoms are, like you say, ascension symptoms, and they're being medicated, which is...
I'm not going to do it.
No.
Well, didn't Phil say, though, last week, not Phil, Russ, that with the chemtrails, you know, a lot of those things, you know, your blood pressure jacks up and you get dizzy and you get this and you get that.
Mercury.
And, you know, like sometimes my blood pressure really jacks up, and it's like, why does it do that? It comes like out of nowhere.
I think I personally, since we got the internet, you know, almost 30 years ago, I am very sensitive to the Schumann resonance, to the magnetics. I will go in and they're off the charts, you know. Solar flares just wipe me out, you know, but they've never caused falling and stuff. And I think it's the huge magnetic shifts that we've gone through this last week that are really doing, you add that with chemtrails and the weather that, are you having funky weather?
Oh, yeah.
In Scotland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hot for this time of the year here.
It's supposed to be going up into the 80s next week.
Oh, we'll keep climbing as well, I think. I mean, for May...
We'll be over 100 tomorrow.
Yeah? Wow, that's hot. Yeah. It's really hot. You know what they've done here? Like the local municipals that collect, we do like food rubbish or garbage, like collections, like and it's once a week, or it'll be your garden, like your grass cuttings or your bushes, like, and you put it in a brown bin, and we put it out once a week and they pick it up. We got an announcement that they're going to pick it up every 2 weeks. Can you imagine rotten food in a bin for 2 weeks? How many bugs, mold? And my thing is, like, people are already struggling. Like, as you say, what Russ was saying last week, like, your immune system is wore down by all the different things we're having to combat in our environment, in our food, in our water, in our air. That's when we become susceptible, I think, to... We have parasites in the water. That's the other announcement. And
we all have parasites in our bodies, and that's another. That's 3/4 of why we don't feel well.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean. And I mean, more and more. Used to be in the old days, you know, 30, 40 years ago, they talked about having parasites in the body, and then they got away from that for some unknown reason, and now it's coming back. That, oh, you have parasites. Yeah, no kidding. Well, now we got to get rid of them.
In the Victorian times, women would actually ingest like a tapeworm so that they would never gain weight, you know. I know. But this is things that they done. Like, who was it? Queen Elizabeth, there was lead in her makeup, that white makeup. And syphilis, they all prescribed mercury. Do you know? There was medicine here when I was a child, and it was a cough bottle, and there was mercury in it.
Well, how about the cocaine and the Coca-Cola? Yeah. You know, in the early days, I mean, my parents used to have a restaurant, and we made Coke. You used to pour, like, the Coke in a thing, and then it mixed with soda water, and then it'd be fountain soda. And every time you would get sick, you would just take the plain Coke, and that would help settle down your stomach. Of course, I think it had cocaine in it, but I don't know when they took it out.
And added sugar.
And that's the way they found Dr. Pepper. it was a pharmacist who found Dr. Pepper, and that gives you diarrhea. You know, it's a
Dr. Pepper, what was he doing? Running around the pharmacy? Was he a pharmacist?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But now they're dropping it literally on us, like, in the Wizard of Oz, it's like being in the poppy field,
Yeah.
And I've wondered if, it just puts them out. And I'm wondering if they're using the same thing on us, because everybody,
They
either
are
aware or not aware, is tired.
Mm-hmm.
They are
and exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they didn't get us in the chemtrails, they certainly got us in the water. That's why it's important to get these water filters. I mean, and let's go back, and I'll give a little advertisement for Century H2O with an S. You can get a discount when you go on their website and order your water filter system, and it's really not that expensive, and you can pay it over time. I mean, it's not that expensive, and you only really have to fill the filters like once a year, or even if it's twice a year, it's still worth it because it takes everything out of the water. They sent them out to East Palestine in Ohio to clean up their water out there because we're being poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my granddaughter, the water coming out of her spigot at her house, you can smell the chlorine.
Yeah.
Well, and here in Texas, in West Texas particularly, we cannot drink water. I mean, it's so bad. For decades, we have to buy water.
Yeah, but they even said the bottled water's bad.
But like with me, I know. Well, and we have to store it, and I'm not going to buy, glass 5-gallon jugs. I can't lift them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't have to buy 5-gallon jugs. I'm going to tell you what you can do.
I
go to the grocery store and ask them if they have any pickle jars, glass pickle jars. They're a gallon, and they throw them away. Tell them you want them. Nice jars.
Nobody here sells them in those big things.
Well, I
use plastic,
I got lucky. I got the 1/2 gallon bowl jars. The one place was selling out here, and, it was like all kinds of cooking things.
Yeah.
And they had big bowl jars, little bowl jars, and look at those nice jars. I'll take those. And I was in a store where they were giving away the pickle jars.
Cool.
Do you guys have to filter in Scotland?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Didn't she just said you had parasites over there in your water, right?
England. I think there's a couple of cities in England that people have been getting ill, and they reported don't drink the water, there's parasites in the water. It's a sewage system. It's a decrepit sewage system, and also you cannot keep flushing waste into the water, and they do.
Well, and here there's the oil fields is where I live in West Texas, and they're shooting the fracking water into I have not been able to get them not to use weed killer. They're still using Roundup, and they haven't figured out they're drinking it.
Mm-hmm. Well, did I tell you about the documentary I watched on the Faroe Islands, Madeline?
Mm-hmm.
No, I watched it a couple of months ago. And the Faroe Islands is an island that sits between the Highlands of Scotland and Iceland. So it sits right in the middle of the Atlantic, away from anything. And there's a bunch of scientists and doctors and all kinds of people that were doing it. There was this woman who was doing a study because there were forever chemicals in the blood. People were getting sick. And forever chemicals are like Scotchgard, 3M, like the water repellents, that it was shown in their blood. And the only way that you can actually get rid of these chemicals is to have a baby. Right. I just saw you. Yeah.
And the baby comes out in chemicals.
It's like the mother load goes to the child. Like nobody knew this was happening, but this is actually happening. So the child is being born with all these forever chemicals. And again, it's like what Russ said, when we have these things in our body, our natural response to healing is compromised. Because we're constantly combating all these different things. And these forever chemicals are serious. And that's your outdoor activities, that's your weather gear, like all the waterproofing that people wear. It's a big industry. And there has never really been any real research done on even Scotchgard. I mean, I remember being a teenager and they were already talking about how Scotchgard was in everybody's blood.
Really?
Because it was on everything. Yeah. Well, babies were crawling around the carpet, you know.
Yeah, it was on the carpet. It was on your clothing.
Right. Fire resistance, sprays. Like, I think that's a big, big problem that we have.
And then you go to the doctor and they give you pharmaceuticals that are more horrible than the Scotchgard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what we're looking at, we didn't create it. What happened, how I see it is, a lot of the times areas are desperate for work, like through decades, right? We end up in a situation where there's no really much work and we're all competing for jobs. And then this big chemical factory moves into your neighborhood and says, jobs, and everybody's like, yay, work. And then next thing, that chemical factory, after 40, 50 years, closes down, moves off, and turns into something different. Meanwhile, the people are left with the ground having been poisoned. A lot of the people are now disabled. So, I mean, and they keep saying that we should be grateful for the big companies that move in. The big companies are the ones that are responsible for a lot of the pollution that we are all suffering from. You know, and they don't provide jobs. What they provide is a job for a little while. No security, you know, no like real long-term. Oh, have we got
there he is.
Yay! Yeah, because I
figured it out.
On.
Oh God, sorry
He's
about that.
He's on a safari. That's why he wasn't there.
Oh yeah, thanks for that background. I didn't choose that, but yeah, I'll take the Serengeti. Sorry, I'm late, ladies.
That's okay.
Who would have thought that an hour and 15 minutes ago it would take this long just to boot your computer and get on Skype? Update after update after update. And then after I thought I was done, Microsoft security comes in and says, we need to upgrade your entire security. Hold on. And I had to wait another,
for God's sake.
I know, when it rains it pours. But anyway, I'm here.
Now you're updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 5 minutes. It's nice to meet you, Caroline. I saw that you...
Nice to meet you, Phil.
Had... I don't go to Skype that often, but apparently you wrote me some time ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it till about 5 minutes ago, so... Yeah.
You know what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to read Phil's bio and Shari's bio, because they're now both here, right?
Oh, goody.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'll put my glasses on and I'm going to read it off. Okay.
Oops.
So we have, let's see here. I keep losing my place. All right, here we go. Phil Laing is a respected workshop facilitator focusing on lesser-known esoteric practices that provide powerful tools for personal transformation. He has been teaching the Flower of Life workshops since 2005 to individuals and groups from diverse backgrounds after a long-held interest in human potential and purpose eventually led him to the work of Drew Vallow, am I pronouncing that right?
Drew
Vallow Melchizedek, founder of the Flower of Life workshop, now authorized to facilitate Drew Vallow's Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshops. His focus is now on the more experiential aspects that this new work allows. Phil is a seasoned guide in exploring introductions to sacred geometry and the human light body in relation to personal integration, ascension, and spiritual growth. His natural sensitivity and experience make him a catalyst in illuminating and supporting new possibilities for practical applications in realizing the multidimensional self. He is also an intriguing presenter of the more controversial elements in the metaphysical area, alternative history, and their current challenges for global society. Philip collaborates with a growing number of organizations and is currently developing his own programs as an independent facilitator. His authentic program delivery and caring instruction is sincere, articulate, and though he has resulted in his being contracted throughout the US and international. In addition, Phil Laing formerly apprenticed with the simple but powerful Kunlun. Is that how am I pronouncing that right?
Kunlun
system as developed and taught by Max Christensen, a rare Taoist internal alchemy practice of self-awakening. The regular practice of this formless form of Neigong likewise results in the transmutation of one's body and consciousness from matter into pure energy or the light body. He has also learned theta healing from Diana Stebal, developer of this technique that uses focused thought and prayer in the theta brainwave state to effect healing change on physical and emotional levels. Drawing in on his own life experience, he began exploring the nature of reality, truth, and perception as it related to personal happiness and healing. In 1987, this led to meetings with modern-day saints from India as well as remarkable teachers and individuals from the West, diverse personal studies in early Christian history, ancient cultures, metaphysics, and suppressed knowledge of law, science, and religion helped to prepare him for his current role as a facilitator, providing a heart-based approach to affairs of the spirit. Phil Laing has a BA degree in finance in California State University, Fullerton. In addition, he has 14 years' experience in the fine art business as an art consultant and assistant director of retail gallery. He currently lives in Southern California. And I'm going to give it your website. The website is www.formlessandtrue.com. And you can also reach Phil on Facebook, and it would be Phil Laing. Oh, wait a minute. It says www.facebook.com/phil.lang.79. And now we have another awesome guest. We have two wonderful guests today. We have Shari Clemens. And let me see. For years, Shari has traveled all over the United States, consulting and teaching others about the unseen realities few of us were taught exist. From her own life experience, she brings science, spiritual insights, and compassion to her work, and hopes to manifest the new planet Earth. Shari has evolved from a fashion designer and licensed architectural interior designer into a designer and healer of the future. She works with an expanded consciousness that allows her to use quantum knowledge and intuition to work with environments and humans to expand, protect, and raise their vibrations to create the planet's vision of a new world reality and our interaction with each other. Shari's work has expanded from designing healthy, sacred spaces to helping her clients expand their personal lives. Her talent of conveying energy awareness and energy transformation to her clients aids them in awakening their own intuition and inner guidance, so they may explore new realms of understanding and insight they did not see before. As a certified QHHT practitioner, Shari also incorporates past life regression hypnosis as a tool for her clients. QHHT allows her clients to personally tap into lifetimes of challenges that may be carried over into their current life that are causing blockages and struggles they do not understand or recognize. With these new awarenesses, they are guided to physically and emotional healings, personal growth, and a new view of themselves and the world around them. Her clients begin to step into their personal power and purpose to aid the planet in evolving into an environment of peace and conscious. And Shari's website is www.shariclemensenergy.com. And we will get that information again as we go through the show. So welcome both of you. Finally, we got the both of you right here. Yeah.
We do.
Finally. Thanks for having us.
And we've got Caroline this time.
What's that? Oh, yeah. We have Caroline this time. I'm going to move my computer a little closer so I look almost far away, but I'm not. I'm right here.
He's in the wilderness.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
Where is
watch
that?
the wild animals.
Safari.
Vanna.
So what did I miss? I joined late. What did you guys fill the time with?
We were talking about water and people being sick for unknown reasons. And if it's part of the dimensional shift or the consciousness shift or the chemtrails or the what trails, or they're just trying to poison us.
Including the sun. The sun isn't poisoning us, it's trying to...
And the parasites.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on. We're in the home stretch. We're in the home stretch, but bring it on, because I think humanity's up to the challenge. And I think they've tried to exterminate us like cockroaches, but we're still here and we're multiplying. So I think we've made it. They're just throwing last-ditch efforts. And nothing can trump awakening consciousness, because consciousness made the reality. And once we realize that we are the programmer of the program, we can alter the rules of the game. And that will take care of some of these curveballs that lesser evolved entities are trying to throw at humanity. I think it's too little too late, but it's throwing some things a little haywire that make this ending a bit interesting. I think we won.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to get to the celebration.
But can you imagine? Can you imagine? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
In our lifetime. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they keep saying it's a great time to be alive.
No time like it.
That's for sure.
I love your laugh, Matt.
That's what they keep saying.
I feel optimistic. I do.
Well, Phil's got a whole lot of new information going on. He's downloading, learning about.
Maybe. Aren't we all continuously being downloaded? I can tell you guys one thing that's happened since I was on your program last is I've solidified dates for an Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshop, which I thought would be in Idaho, would be the next one, but it's actually going to happen in Southern California and the first week of August. So that's happened since we all met on this channel. And so I'm happy for that because I can't wait to present that. It looks like we're going to have a good crowd, and the people that are interested in coming, who've already confirmed that they're going to, are some pretty advanced souls. It's going to be a very synergistic combination of people, just who is there already. So we've got room for about, I think, 25 people. So there's still chairs left, but that's brand new. There's still, a couple of months away, but that gives people time to get it off work, make plans. A lot of times people travel to these things, but I'm very excited to be able to present that again in Southern California.
Well, how do the people get in touch with you if they want to attend the workshop?
Well, the website.
Or
the website that Caroline already mentioned, formlessandtrue.com. And my email's there, my phone number is there, and they can find more information there as well, or even, if we talk about it today. Other than that...
On Facebook. They can get all your information. They can get all of your information on Facebook.
I reposted it for you.
Oh,
yeah,
thank
and
you. It's just that some people don't do Facebook. I don't go there that often myself, but that's how people communicate now. So you have to put something there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes, all the information is on Facebook, but if you're not a Facebook person, you just go to my website, formlessandtrue.com. For those of you that are attracted or interested in that type of work, if you want to know more, you'll find it on Facebook or the website, and you'll know. You'll feel called towards it, drawn towards it, and if you're attending for the right reasons, that workshop has the power to transform. It really does.
And what are some of the things that could happen for you in the workshop?
Well, that's different for every person. Most of the workshop is actually very experiential. A large part of it, in fact, is actually done blindfolded. When you turn off the light coming through your eyes, guess what turns on? Your pineal deep inside. And that gives us a crutch to do some of the exercises that we do in the workshop that are fun, but it also begins to give people a way to sense and feel subtle energy, because when we move forward as a collective, as a planet, being able to start the process of understanding who we really are is going to start with going back to those aspects of ourselves that we've forgotten over time because we've become so externally focused, especially in the Western world, the technological world. We're looking outside ourselves. We've forgotten to stop, calm down, check inside, and start to sense and feel what has always been there. And so we do a lot of exercises where we're blindfolded in order to begin to sense and feel not only our own energy, but those of people around us, and also our own heart, and which is a big focus of the workshop. Because where humanity is going from here is going to be a lot more heart-based. And that doesn't necessarily mean squishy gooey, but it does mean a world of balance and harmony and non-judgment and non-duality. And so in order to segue from the kind of very left-brained world that we're in now to one that is more balanced, requires that we re-engage with our human birthright as beings that can sense and feel energies that are beyond the typical five senses. So we do a lot of workshops like that. We also activate a lot of aspects to the psychic or spiritual anatomy that humanity's largely forgotten. So you've seen all the angels and the saints in the medieval paintings with the halo around their head. Well, we help reconnect the heart and the brain in such a way that you can reestablish that halo. It involves the use of the tongue. It involves the use of going into the heart, the physical heart, in a particular way. And when you do it, and it is a practice, it takes some work, but a lot of people can do it very quickly. In fact, a good portion in the workshop actually can do it, especially women. It's a very yin, it's a very yielding kind of work where there's nothing to do. It's just to allow. And when that happens, you begin to generate a certain frequency within your heart that you can transmit to the tip of your tongue. And from the tip of your tongue, you can actually send it to a particular part of the brain, specifically the third ventricle of the brain. That's where all your hidden super potentials are. That's where your pineal gland and chakra are located. And you can transmit that energy from your heart back to the brain, and you can reconnect the brain under the purview of the heart the way humanity used to be hardwired, eons ago. And once that happens, the ego and the spirit aren't really in conflict anymore. And so you start to you see the same world with the same eyes, but you perceive it in a different way because you're seeing it through the single eye of the heart as opposed to a dualistic perspective from the ego. Because remember, our brain has a left and right hemisphere, one that's intuitive and one that's logical, and that sort of is an analogy for the fact that we live in a polarized world. And so the heart's not polarized. It doesn't know polarity. It only knows harmony and balance. So that really can't be explained, but it can be experienced, and this is the aim of the workshop. Ultimately, we will conclude it with showing how to create non-polarized creations or realities from your heart as opposed to your mind, and also we'll reestablish the Merkaba, the light body. But we do it in a way that's heart-generated now instead of the old way in which we did a 17-breath meditation that had to be done daily to keep that active. The energies are different now, so it's much easier to actually accomplish that if that is your goal. If you are interested in ascension as a path forward from this world that we would consider 3D, this would be like a primer. It would be like an introductory course on how to live when we make that shift, because we have to realize that we create our entire reality in that realm from here in each now moment. And so it's not a place to have a lot of phobias and fears and animosities and resentments that we brought forward from here. Otherwise, you'll find that place a rather difficult place to live. So there is emphasis in the workshop on opening the heart in a way to allow baggage, unhealed, unresolved trauma to leave the body. It becomes easier to enter the what we call the sacred space of the heart. That's what the Upanishads called it. When you're not fearful of going into that place, because that's where your bliss and joy is found. It's also where a lot of people pack away negative memories, traumas, and that sort of thing. So it can be a scary place for some people to enter. But it has to be resolved. It has to be transmuted in order to get to this next stage in human evolution. So we spend time with that as well. That's why I say if you're attending for the right reasons, this workshop has the power easily to transform lives. I have letters. You get letters 6 weeks after the workshop on how people applied this in their daily life. And that's the other thing, because these concepts might sound good in a book or talking about it like this, but when you can actually practically apply it in your daily life and see the rewards and the benefits from shifting your perspective, that's when your spirituality becomes usable and real. And that's what I think a lot of people are looking for now, is not so much book knowledge, but tools that can be actualized in the human experience, especially now. Hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a lovely description.
Yeah.
So is this a workshop that you have done before? Like you had mentioned?
Yes. Yeah. It's, as you mentioned in my biography, which you got the long version apparently. But this is not my creation. It's not my work. It was developed and taught originally by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And he has several authorized teachers of this, or facilitators of this work around the world. I'm one of them. And so it's actually his work. And it's a culmination of his life work in studying consciousness and being able to collapse all the essence of all the different spiritual paths into something that could be brought home to the average person who's alive at this time in human history to be able to practice on their own. And because we have the added ability of science to aid in why the workshop is taught in the way it is, you don't have to be a yogi meditating in the cave for 50 years until you get that one spot that gives you your enlightenment. We've been able to collapse that to a much shorter period of time, not only due to some of his discoveries and some of his downloads, but also due to clinical work that were done in experiments in a laboratory that could verify these things. Mm-hmm. Because now we know where to place the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Different placements give different effects. We're after a particular effect. And so there's a particular placement for that we practice in the workshop. So it's not my work. It's actually Drunville Melchizedek's, and I'm authorized to teach that version that it used to be called the Flower of Life Workshop. Mm-hmm. And around 2010, 2011, its name changed to Awakening the Illuminated Heart, because he had received direction that it was now time to teach this work from a more intuitive and experiential basis rather than one from logic and the mechanics of the light body, but rather to let people begin to sense and feel their true nature and their heart. And this is why there's so many exercises in this workshop. And they're very simple and fun to do, but it gets you out of your normal mindset of being externally focused and to learn to tap in and feel on an inner level because that's how awakening on an inner, from an inner standpoint actually starts. It's that small, still sensation or feeling within, and you kind of have to rediscover that. At least most of us do. I know that the three of you probably do not, but for many people that are feeling a little bit behind the curve, this is a very good fundamentals standpoint from which to begin and remember. This is why we call it a remembering process, not a learning, because we already have that information embedded deep into us as a human race. It's just that we've forgotten, but it's still there. It's still in the DNA, and we draw it forward into present time awareness in this workshop because the times not only require it, but it's never been easier. We have the wind at our back now.
Yeah. Mm. I like there that. Yeah, wind at your back.
Of all the things I've done, this one is the one I enjoy teaching the most because you get to see these transformations happen while you're in the class. And it doesn't matter if it's 8 people or 28 people. Some of the most powerful workshops I've had have been small groups, mm-hmm. Because it's what you're bringing in, your intention for showing up that makes the power. And when you get a group of like-minded people who have come together for a singular purpose, you're really taking advantage of energetic and spiritual synergy. And you think it's just the 8 of you or the 28 of you or however many in the room, but no, there's so much more. All your spirit teams show up. And I know this because I can sense and feel it, but many people can actually see it with their own inner vision. And so you have that element of higher levels that are very happy that we're actually aware and remembering this and actually anchoring it down into the physical, because that helps the collective as well. Even if the average person hasn't attended the workshop, we're actually feeding the morphogenic field or the collective consciousness to be able to make it easier for everyone to attain those levels of understanding if they choose.
And I've gotten to experience the workshop through Phil. And we had a relatively small group, but some of them, how many? 3 or 4 of them had already taken it once and took it again.
They repeated it. They took it again. Yeah. They found, and also I should mention that you get everything that you need if you want to continue this as a practice. You would never, if you wanted to, have to take it again. But many people do, because once you understand the essence of the work that you experience the first workshop and your own practice once you go home, many people choose to repeat it at some point later, a year later, 2 years later, because you'll experience it in an entirely different way because you've grown in that period. Different things will be nuanced to you that you'll become aware of that you didn't perhaps before. So a lot of people do choose over time to take it again because they experience it in an entirely different way. That's true, Shari. We had a few who did that. That was San Antonio, right?
Right.
We were in San Antonio.
And there was one young woman that came in, and she wasn't really prepared, but within 24 hours she had completely shifted, and it was an interesting experience. Yeah, it really was. And especially being with like-minded people, which I don't get here very often. That's why I'm calling, and talking to Madeline and Phil all the time, because we don't have a lot of woo-woo people out here. We're getting a lot more. And Phil tried to teach the class out here, and they're just not ready for it yet. But it's really an experience that I enjoy. Yeah.
Well, I think whenever you can combine science and spirituality together, it gives people who otherwise would not be open to the topic, it gives them something to grab onto and have it make sense for them. Once they can see the logic and they can make sense of it with the intellect, it allows them to open up their heart more because they get it. And so that lets them trust their emotional body more. It lets them trust their feeling self some more.
We're coming up. I'm sorry, I don't want to stop you, but I think we're coming up on a break. You've been listening to Revolution Radio, Life in the Hologram, and we'll be back after these few short messages. We're back, and you've been listening to Life in the Hologram on Revolution Radio. And just a reminder, we are listener supported. So if you have some change, like skip buying a coffee during the week and PayPal it to us or whatever way you get money to us, we'd greatly appreciate it because we have so many shows on, so much interesting information. We do not leave any stones unturned, not over here. And new stones are creating every day. Wouldn't you say so, Caroline?
Absolutely. And the archives are free.
Yeah, and we're live somewhere.
Yep, we are live somewhere.
We're not quite sure where, but we are.
Yep.
I think we're on Rumble, but I don't know if we're live straight on Rumble. But we do show up on my thing and on, what's it called? The Freedom Slips?
Oh, Freedom Slips, yeah.
Or the Hawk's Nest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it on there. Yep.
Yeah, and we're streaming someplace else too, but it's kind of a mystery.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned archive, because I'm a researcher, or at least I think of myself as one, and I love archives because if I miss a show or if I want to see a history of shows, I can go back and see guests that I wanted to or subjects that I wanted to hear, and I appreciate the fact that there are archives available, and I know it's through donations of listeners that derive as much benefit as I did for being able to access those things that have helped me. I haven't learned jack from the regular news in 20 years. Well, longer, okay? So I don't even listen to them except for a joke. The nightly news is a cure for depression because you just look at it and you'll die laughing because it's so ridiculous. So we have to go to channels like this to hear an alternative way of information and ways of being, because when I was first confronted with that absurdity, I was naive, but this was so outrageous to me, I actually decided to do my own research to prove this author who had written an article on a forum I belonged to. I wanted to prove him wrong. And so I took all of his points and I started looking at the links he was suggesting. And this was in the fall of 2001. And boy, did I have my belief system turned upside down. It was so it was so 100%, 180 degrees opposite from what I had been taught, what I believed to be true, that I couldn't handle it. Somebody had to be wrong. Somebody had to be incorrect. Someone had to be telling the truth. Someone had to be lying. And it started me on a voracious reading. I mean, like you can't imagine. It's still going on myself. But I was able to do it because I was going to channels, radio stations, podcasts, whatever, that were ultimately listener supported. They wouldn't be there if it wasn't for listeners. So I just wanted to say I personally can testify firsthand on the value of having access to alternative information because it helped wake me up. And then I could see, once I could see with my own eyes, I could see past the BS and the illusion that the matrix workers are trying to put on everybody. And that's important because not everyone's going to wake up through a spiritual awakening. They may wake up by finding out that everything they ever trusted in society, the religions, the banking, the school systems, the education, all these things that we've been taught to trust and not question are actually the problem itself. But you wouldn't know that unless we had shows like yours and other shows like on this network that are attempting to get an audience for people who are ready to awaken and understand. There's much more going on than what the boob tube through prescribed channels that keeps putting out the same narrative is trying to tell us. So I just wanted to say that it's valuable. So if people feel so inclined to donate a cup of coffee to the cause, it's to your long-term benefit to do so.
Yeah, it's interesting, all the things that, I mean, there's so much information out now. It's almost an information overload, isn't it?
Can I add an amen to what Phil just said, too? And it's another plug for your show. Frank Jacob came out with a teaser for his new documentary, and it's going to blow a lot of people's mind, all the research that he has done on his new one. And he's going to be on your show week after next, Madeline?
31st. The 31st, yeah.
And he's just come out with the trailer and today. And I think I sent, no, you'll probably already get it because you follow him like crazy. But it's going to shake some people up. So I'm really glad he agreed to come back on your show again.
Oh, he's been on the show for many years.
Lot. Yeah.
Many years, yeah.
Who is it, Madeline?
Frank Jacobs.
Frank Jacobs, okay.
Yeah, he's come on for many years.
And he's pulling these documents out like crazy. And this one is going to be on steroids, particularly, like Phil just said, all the things we've been programmed to believe, especially our government and religious organizations and things like that. He's going to nail them in this new one. Yeah.
Well, when you delve into what's going on in the Vatican, it almost makes your head spin off your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's necessary, you know. Sometimes truth or awakening is painful. You know, and you know, I remember the first time I found out the tooth fairy didn't exist, and I remember, you know, it was the truth, but it was a bit painful because I couldn't understand why all my friends got $1 underneath their pillow when they lost their tooth. On Monday morning, we all compared notes, and I only got $0.25. I went home and asked my mom, how come Billy and Joey got dollars underneath their pillows, and the tooth fairy, that cheap son of a, only gave me $0.25? And my mom gave me some answer. I was young enough to start being suspicious. I've been suspicious my whole life. Who's lying to me? Anyway, the next time I had a tooth get loose, I didn't tell anybody, not even my friends. I waited till it came out, and I stuck it under the pillow. I went to bed, and I waited when I woke up in the morning to see what kind of cash I had underneath there. I pulled the pillow back, and there was nothing there but a bloody tooth. Okay, so that's childlike awakening, but you get over it. You're very malleable as a child, but adults that have been programmed their whole lives to trust and not question, that's all we're ever told, is trust and don't question. That has ramifications for themselves, their psyche, their families, because they have to, and the economy, and they have to pay a living or make a living to take care of their families. It's a big repercussion when disclosure comes. And so the question then becomes, how much do you tell the public? And do you do it all at once, or do you meter it out over a period of time so it's digestible? And I think that's where a lot of backroom discussions are happening, if there is a plan for discussion, because you can't push society forward in that direction of evolution and truth if they're all in a fetal position on their bed sucking their thumb because they just found out the truth about their organized religion or their banking or their government or their favorite politician or movie star. That can be a shock to the psyche. And if you can't drive your kids to school in the morning or go to work yourself, that really doesn't help the economy go forward because there's a shock value there. Mm-hmm. And I think we're starting to see a very slow seeding into the news cycle of corruption and child trafficking and going back and forth between trafficking and political corruption to get the public used to those concepts so that when bigger drops happen, it's not a sudden shock, but it's like, oh, I've already been acclimated to this. I can handle it. I'll get angry, but I'm not going to go burn down City Hall and blow up bridges and just rage, because we need our infrastructure to go forward. And so I think it's a delicate balance between the need to awaken people not only to their earthly disclosures and realities, but also the internal ones. You know, there's a lot of people, I know that Shari gets these from time to time, people who've grown up in households that are very traditional religious. They don't teach them about the inner experiences that happen. You're told just to read the book, whatever that religion's book is, and pay attention to the rules of the group, and you're in good stead. But it doesn't explain what happens and what it means if you start to get visions or see spiritual beings or have other experiences like knowing something before it happens and a whole host of things, seeing strange energies like aura. Those things aren't taught in churches and synagogues and temples, but they happen to people and they're happening spontaneously, and people think they're going crazy unnecessarily because it was never taught to them. They need to know. Mm-hmm. Humanity needs to be told about themselves because everything about us has been hidden for so long. It's generationally lost. And this is why it's important to do experiential work, even if it's just breath work. You'll reconnect to a part of yourself that was never lost, just forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's too bad. Well, I try to teach my little great-grandchildren some things.
What happened?
They go along with it. But there should be more of it.
Yeah. We've still got grown adults in this area primarily, and it also is not helping with the influx of illegal migration into our country because they don't understand these things. But Bill's right. I lived in eastern New Mexico in the oil fields and grew up in a family that my family for our church was quite liberal, but the teachings weren't. And I thought I was going crazy. So I stuck, and I was being abused at the time. I went through electroshock thinking I was going crazy. when I was going through my awakening. And now I'm having clients here in West Texas that are calling, I think I'm going crazy. And I said, well, I've been there, done that. Let's keep you out of the hospital in electroshock. So it's very real. And some things haven't changed in 40 years, So I think that's one reason God brought me back here.
Well, I think a lot of things, a lot of people, I think there's being a religious revival, which could be good, could be bad, but at least somebody's waking up to something, because we have a religious revival on one hand, and then we have this Sri Lanka, is it called, religion trying to come in here and switch the whole enchilada around in all over the world.
And telling children that the girls are boys and the boys are girls, I mean.
Well, and hate to America.
Yeah. So, but it's all over the world. And that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As they say, it's good versus evil.
Yeah.
I mean, and the evil's pretty darn evil.
It's on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah. I had something here that I read earlier, and we have a national trust here, and that supposedly takes care of like all the ancient sites, historical buildings and stuff, and they have like walks and trails. They had changed what they what was it they changed it for a minority group to a global majority. So they've changed the wording when, like to encourage like diverse groups to join like the walks or the trust or the museums or whatever. It was always referred to as group minorities, right? Minorities. Now they have changed it to the global majority. I don't know how they're going to feel about all being grouped together like that. Why do they keep coming up with these labels that are just going to divide people?
And who's the group majority?
Well, it would be Asian, right? It would be all the ones that we used to label minority. They knew are the majority.
Yeah, we're the minority.
Crazy. Yeah, but it's crazy. It's just another division.
It divides it more.
Mm-hmm.
It divides
it's just the wording.
It more.
Yeah, why?
Well, it obliterates culture, it obliterates language and border, and without those three things, you don't have distinct cultural identities. Like when I go to France, I don't want McDonald's, and I don't want I don't want a lot of things. I want French culture. I want French food. I want French restaurants, French language. I don't want to go there and get things that are global. But also, if you start false migrations by planned warfare to cause exodus of people that suddenly are welcomed by wealthy nations to the north, and we saw this several years ago with people leaving Syria and all the Middle East bombings. They came in through Turkey, and from there they went to Germany, and something just happened in Ireland. I forget. It was in the news the other day, Caroline.
Oh, yeah.
And there's getting to be some pushback because it started with, okay, we don't have separate European countries. Now we have European Union. And now you have, it's like open borders for migrants to come in, and we're starting to see their culture become the predominant law of the land, just because culturally they live differently in their land, but now they're here, they don't know how to live another way, but it's an affront to the host nation that brought them in. And we're seeing the same thing in Canada and the United States, but it's due to shenanigans that have driven people from poorer regions in the Western Hemisphere to go north, and they found a welcoming come on in. The water's fine. Just cross the river and you're in. And we'll give you thousands of dollars a month. We'll bus you to a nice place. You can blend in with the community. Just vote Democrat. Just keep that orange man out of office. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying anything pro or anti any candidate, but you can see the agenda, and it's multifaceted. And I think you could trace it back to something that's anti-human, not only for the migrants, but for the cultures that have to host them, because there's something even deeper here that creates the destruction of the family unit, the destruction of culture, national identity, national pride, and of knowing where your place is in the universe. If you erase all that, you're kind of like a ship at sea with no rudder and no sail. You're just bobbing about. And I think this is done purposefully, and I think has been in the drawing board for probably 100 years, because these groups, they tend to work on a 100-year plan. They're actually living on doing things that they know they will never see the fruits of their actions until long after they've died. That keeps their ego out of it, so they can selflessly do the work that is required of them without being attached to seeing immediate results. And we're seeing what's happening now. We're seeing writings from 80, 90 years ago that were intending exactly what's happening now, especially planned wars. So how do you combat that with spiritual awareness and living from the heart, or any other kind of life-affirming spiritual practice that can circumvent that? Because I do think part of that is due to consciousness, but we're 3D beings with physical bodies that have the ability to pick up a shovel or do work and write letters. I mean, at what point do we activate our own 3D bodies from an alignment within ourselves to stop this trend? Because we can't sit back and just say, I'll click my heels together and pet Toto. And, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And I'll just wake up and everything will be fine and dandy. Sometimes you have to take a stand and take action. And remember, the universe has a law that states that a being has the right to self-defense. Any life form has some sort of a defense mechanism, whether it's strength, fangs, speed, intelligence, to get out of danger and protect its life and its genome. And so protecting yourself and taking actions that we otherwise might not be favorable to do is actually sometimes required. Otherwise, it leads to your extinction. And I don't think there's karma in regards to that, because you're protecting your life. You're defending yourself. This is not an offensive action. And I think you're starting to see the slow realization of that across several different demographics, whether they're spiritually minded, metaphysically minded, traditionally minded. Everyone is seeing the same BS right now, and they're assimilating it through their own filters, through their own knowledge. But it also comes down to the same thing: am I safe? Can I afford to raise my kids in a culture that I was accustomed to, that I identify with, and is it possible to do so with freedom? And I think we're seeing
not anymore.
Well, there's going to be pushback. We're starting to see it. The question is, how much will people who realize that they've been manipulated push back? But that's spiritual growth as well. Sometimes you have to actually take action and take a stand based on your spiritual principles and not be passive.
Well, it's too bad, because I think a lot of the people thought that the people that they put in office would defend them against these elements that are working against us, and that's not happening.
I know here in Texas in general, but just where I'm living, I can't ask a question in a grocery store or Ross's or a dress store or anything, because everybody speaks another language. They're here in the United States. I actually caught myself today getting real angry that even people in the parking lot were not speaking English.
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse, you know? It's getting worse. And they're getting paid. They're getting paid. If
we were in their country, they'd expect us to speak their language or some form of it, or get our phone out and do a translation.
Yeah, but that's not happening here. And we had, before all this started, on steroids, we have a large multilingual community because of the oil fields and stuff. But now it's I go into the grocery store and 90% of the people in there are speaking another language. And I'm going, we're in America and we speak English. And you're not even trying to learn it. You're not going to learn it. And I got a bee in my bonnet. So, and I had to admit it.
I think that it's happening deliberately. I think that is because when I came back to Scotland in 2015, one of the first jobs that I took, I was the only person speaking English. Yeah. And that was 9 years ago here. And one of the things that happened in Europe in the 90s, like you had Sarajevo, you had Yugoslavia changed its name, Czechoslovakia changed its name, and you had a mass exodus in Eastern Europe that went into Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England. It went all over Europe. So when I came back here 9 years ago, I was working with people who spoke Polish, Russian, Romanian, Hungarian, and what I noticed was there was always programs set up for immigrants to kind of help them settle in, where they would be able to go to the library to learn English. They would have we had a Citizens Advice Bureau where they would get help with filling in forms or applying for houses or references. That has not happened, and it wasn't happening 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And the younger ones that I came across were determined to learn English, but they would bring their parents, their grandparents, who knew no English. And I think this has happened before. I don't think this is the first time that this has happened in our history. I think this has happened before, multiple times. I don't think this is a new move by whoever the powers that be. I think because the history here is so convoluted and so deceitful and full of lies. You can barely find a decent, everybody has myths and fairy tales and stories about their country. You know, Scotland has very, very few. Like, we have to go to Ireland, we have to go to Wales, we have to go to England to find, like, some sort of cohesiveness. And I think there's a lot of lies being told. You know, I do. That's just how I feel about it.
And it's splitting people. It's intentionally like we're going through. Yeah.
It's happened before.
And causing stress. I have to go, there are stores I can go up from one end to the other and not find anyone who speaks English to answer
that's questions. Like New York City. I mean, and that was when I was in New York City, maybe, 10 years ago. Hardly anybody spoke English there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
what about California? There's a lot of Chinese in California, aren't there?
Well, there's a lot of everything. It's a Pacific Rim. It's a Pacific Rim, and I don't blame any human being who is living such a tough life that they want to migrate to a country that has. Yes. What I blame, however, is the politicians that know that no host country has the finances to be able to help all these people. Most countries have rules for legally immigrating to become a citizen, but what we're seeing now is a fast tracking around the world for host countries to just take in more than they can handle. How do you finance that? I know Europe has higher taxation, so you don't see a lot of the problems you have here in the United States with homelessness and drug addicts.
Oh, we have it.
You have it. It's growing, but it's probably not as bad as it is here in the U.S., but we don't have the funds for it. We have, we probably use the taxes to pay for a lot of social services for the citizens. But if they're all being used up by migrant populations escaping war and poverty, I don't blame the people if they're told, hey, you can get to America, you can get to Scotland, you can get to the UK, you're home free. There's help for us there, and we'll get away from the war. We'll get away from poverty. The problem is that how are you going to finance that on the backs of the population that is there legally? And the politicians are the ones who allowed it. Now, that you just say vote the bums out, right? But when you realize that the elections are systemically rigged, you come across against a different problem, and you can't find it in the courts. The courts are rigged. The police are rigged. For a long time. Congress, it's been systemic for a long time. And whistleblowers, this is a key thing for me. When people do get a conscience and go public, guess what? They get killed.
Get bumped off.
Yeah. And the pattern there is pretty undeniable. And so because we're not going to ever be told the truth, because we're the sheep, we're the cattle, we're what they're fighting over, till the victor gets the spoils, they're not going to tell us. They don't want a stampede of cattle breaking down the fences. So they keep us dumbed down and compliant. They feed us. Everything is calm. Everything is normal. But that's a form of mental slavery, cultural slavery. And going back to the workshop that I teach, the last part of the human that really is uncorrupted is the heart connection to source. And if we could develop that connection once again to access divinity through the heart, we would be able to see much faster and clearly through the BS and through the smoke screens in a clear way, so they wouldn't have to guess what is the truth. Right. Until then, developing the gift of discernment has never been more important, to be able to sense and tell bullshit narrative from the actual truth. And without looking at history and the history of corruption and how it's been used through populations at time, it's hard to see that in plain sight. I can do it now. You guys can do it now. But to the average person waking up, they can't believe their favorite news anchor on TV that they've been watching for 10 or 15 years would be a liar. Or that news would be a
program.
A program
false
of false
fake news.
Right? Because people open books to learn. They turn on the TV to hear the news. We presume that's what's been given us, and to realize there's been systemic, because it's not just the people; it's the migrants that have been lied to as well. Their governments sold them out, forced them to migrate, and there went their culture. It's affecting cultures of Eastern Europe. It's affecting cultures in the Mediterranean, Arabic cultures, very long-standing cultures that are being dispersed around the planet. So it's a systemic breakdown of cultural identity, and genetically, we're in our strength when we are in the land of our foremothers.
Oh,
and
definitely.
when you are suddenly taken out of your land of power, your land of ancestry, that tweaks your DNA. you're a weakened individual at that point.
Well, the only problem here is why I always wondered, and this is since I'm a child, why is it the United States' responsibility to take care of all these other countries when we have our own headaches right here? Until every person who was born here has a roof over their head, food in their belly, and money in their pocket, and our veterans are taken care of, why are we giving them money away? And why are we giving money to people that are just crossing over the border when half of them were left out of prisons?
Because they can print money. They can print money at will because it's called fiat currency.
Yeah.
It's called globalists, and they set America up to be the one that would do that. If you trace it back, it goes through the Crown Corporation of the City of London and the Vatican.
Right.
It's all there, but we are the patsy, you could say. We're the one being used as the tool, so we look bad around the world. There is no American goodwill any longer. We've squandered that. But the real powers that be behind the scenes, they're not. There's no attention being given to them, and that's part of waking people up. You know, you can wake them up spiritually, which is important. The times require it. But at the same time, if you're living a 3D life where you have to chop wood, carry water, pay the bills, go to work, the systems that are set up to support all that need to be uncorrupted. And when you start looking at the history of banking, the history of law, the history of manipulation of language, you see that this is a very old record, and they're slowly changing the definitions of things. And each generation becomes dumber and dumber. At least it is in the U.S. We're probably the most manipulated and dumbed down modern population in the world because an American student can't even touch what the average student in Europe is taught. They're actually
or China or Japan.
There. Yeah. It's you have to raise a generation of idiots so that you can manipulate them and take down. You know, we've lost 2 generations now, and I'm talking as someone who survived the California public school system. But even then, we were taught the fallacies of logic, how to argue, how to read between the lines. We were taught parts of history and things now that are not even part of the curriculum, and the kids just don't even know. And further, if you do tell them about it, they don't see why it's important. They are getting all their information from a cell phone because they were brain hacked into getting the little dopamine responses every time they got a red bubble and a ding-ding on their phone. And, you know, that's a problem.
And look at our Supreme Court just gave power back to the Federal Reserve, which is bankrupt to begin with, and gave them power over, our money system to begin with. And
I thought they'd shut it down.
No. The Supreme Court had a court case in front of them this week, trying to take away the Federal Reserve's power over, I don't even remember what it was now, and the Supreme Court let the Federal Reserve keep the power that they've got now. And that's our government giving more power to who shouldn't have it to begin with, and it's blatant. It's right there in front of us. And I think one of our biggest problems that has been put to us is we no longer have families. We never have mothers and fathers. Both parents are working just to put a roof over their head and soup on the table, and the kids and pay for the child support, which is crazy. Right. And they're just in survival mode. They can't read or or listen to alternative newscasts and things like that, like we do. But it's just taking care of the survival needs, and it's getting worse every day. And we're not going to be able to take care of these families if we own nothing and are happy about it,
No. And we need support. We need support,
And we need roofs over our heads,
yes,
other than in cookie cutter 1-room apartments, especially if they've got 3 or 4 kids,
Yeah.
But they figured this all out. And that's, I'm in West Texas, and just a normal house. Well, a normal house right now is, the average house in Midland is about $400,000 to $500,000. My ex-husband just sold his house in Irvine for. We paid $100,000 for it when we first bought it. He just sold it for $1.6 million in Irvine. All profit in one lifetime. $1.6 million for 17 bedrooms. You can barely put a single bed in.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
It's been that way in London forever.
Oh yeah. And New York City. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tokyo and some places, but it's becoming widespread now in this current economy. But when you have a value system that's systemic, that is based on competition, greed, corruption, and similar values, you realize that the energy is coming onto the planet now, and where humanity is taking itself in this spontaneous awakening are inconsistent. And that way is not going to be able to last forever. And I think before you can build something new that is in alignment with the new energies, you have to watch the downfall of the old so you can build something new. And I think we're in it now. We're starting to see it. The question is, how long will it last, and how will people rally? Because ultimately, this is unsustainable. We already know that there is more debt owed to various entities than money exists. So if you took everyone's money, everything printed, every coin, every bill that exists in physicality, and used it to pay off existing debt, there'd still be debt left over. So it's mathematically impossible to pay back. So something is eventually going to crumble. And so the whole fiat system can't keep going. And because the world is so interconnected now, once one aspect of it falls, the rest will eventually crumble as a dominoes. And I think a lot of people who have foresight are seeing that. And thus you have people looking at prepping, how to live when the grid goes down, getting out of fiat-denominated currencies around the world and getting into real assets like land or gold or tools, things that help you survive, help you plant food and corn, that sort of thing, and not invest in paper from a rigged stock market, from a rigged currency. That's unsustainable. And so we're at the very, very end. I mean, just today, silver, at least in the United States, during the trading here today, went up something like $1.80. It's like 6% in one day.
Wow.
It closed for the first time above 30 for the first time, I think, in decades, or at least maybe 20 years. But they said that if you look at the mathematics, if it closed above 30, that would become silver's new ceiling, and it would never go below that. And 50 would probably be its next target. And it closed today for the first time over 30 US dollars because China agreed to, I guess, buy a massive amount of gold, and silver and gold pricing goes together. Point is, they're hedging their bets against the collapse of fiat currency because it's false money. And so they're going to what's tried and true for centuries. And if anyone knows the value of gold over the centuries, it's the Asians. They've been through so many wars and invasions. What allows them to start over is by keeping a secret hoard of family gold. So if they have to migrate, they bring it with them. The Vietnamese, when Saigon fell and they were brought over to the United States, they came over with nothing except gold that they had in the family. But once they got here, they traded in for dollars. They bought homes, businesses, restaurants, and they immediately thrived. And so we're starting to see that, the breakdown of old systems, because the way they created it's a house of cards. And unfortunately, we, the people, are going to be the ones that are going to have to adjust very quickly. And because those value systems aren't consistent with what's happening on the planet now. We're starting to see the incompatibility of it, and that's going to create destruction. It's necessary, but in order to build something new, we have to see this old way go away. We can only help our neighbors and go within our hearts to be able to rise to the occasion of ourselves for what's required in the decades to come, in my opinion.
There we go. Well, let's talk about your Solex machine.
Okay, that's
we
a
only
pivot.
Have 13 more minutes.
That's a pivot.
Enough with this gloom and doom.
It's actually not gloom and doom. I'll talk about the Solex thing, but when I look at mass chaos, I'm actually seeing it as an externalization of the people inside themselves around the globe doing their inner work. Because these start to shift inside, the outer world that is reflective of the inner is starting to break down, because our old narratives, our old belief structures and false narratives that we've always told ourselves are breaking down, because we're doing the inner work and we're waking up. So of course, when I see all this so-called destruction and gloom and doom, to me it's not. I'm actually seeing proof that there's change afoot. And so I'm actually, like Caroline, I'm very optimistic for the future. And as indicative of that is your reference to it's not a machine called Solex, but it is a company in the U.S. that has a quantum bioresonant body and health analyzer. And anyone can get it. I use it. I use it with clients because I do work as a healer. And I find it very effective to not only broadcast frequencies that the scanner indicates that person needs, and I can do it remotely anywhere in the world. And it works on pets. Pets respond very, very, very quickly to it, because they not only don't know they're being worked on, but they don't have a filter in their head that says it's not true, it's not working. They're readily receptive to those kinds of frequencies. And everything now, if you look at it, is going towards the energy, the medicine of energy, of frequency, of vibration, of light, right, which of course is a vibration. So we're seeing that trend as well as part of the new paradigm. And so eventually I think everyone's going to have health as a human birthright. And as a segue from the old pharmaceutical model, which we're trying to get out of, you have companies like Solex that have an app that you can work through your laptop or your cell phone. And you can scan someone remotely. I've done it to both of you, Madeline and Shari, that analyzes you for about 170,000 different frequency signatures on all your systems, your body parts, supplements. Oceans?
Emotions.
Emotions, yeah. And it gives you a report. It only takes a few minutes to do. And this was originally Russian technology. And they gave it to an American company, I believe, to license it is how it came to the U.S. They've made some augmentations over the years. The company's 12 years old. But I've done scans on people, and they've been able to utilize this information to not only improve their own health through do-it-yourself methods, but in the case of myself, when I use a modality that you guys might be familiar with called theta healing, I can scan someone for emotions. And if they are that disconnected from themselves, I can often show them with that report that they've got certain things going on, and might that be true? And all of a sudden they go, oh, yeah, I might have a conflict between my parents, or I might have an issue with self-esteem. And then we have something to work on. And, of course, the next thing they want to know is, well, how did it know this? How did it find me in the soup of reality and be able to scan me and not you? And that's just part of quantum entanglement and intention. And several companies now, Solex isn't the only one, but it's what was affordable and usable for me, and I could utilize it immediately on clients. And so I've been using that, and I'm new to it. It's been a few months, but I've been able to get several people extremely intrigued, and also over the hump of depression and other things that they were dealing with, like the death of a loved one, just from sending them tones that were derived from a vocal analysis. They sent me a 10-second voice clip that I would play into the app and would analyze their voice for, I think it's like 2,000 different microtones, micro overtones, and frequencies in their voice. And apparently they found out a way to map the human emotional landscape by analyzing the voice. Just like you can look at someone's eyes and do iridology and figure out things about them, they've been able to do that with the human voice. And so what this app will do is it'll take the 3 highest tones that your voice had that were out of balance, and the 1 suppressed tone that you had the most out of balance, and it will self-generate opposing frequencies that will bring the high tones back to optimum levels and the suppressed tone up to a level that it needs to be healthy. And they've found that has a direct effect on human emotional stability and health. So, as you probably are aware, being in a very positive state when you're dealing with a health challenge is much more important and easy to heal when you're feeling emotionally stable and positive than if you're negative, cynical, and shut down in that way. Well, these tones, that when you listen to them, they'll actually bring you back to emotional balance. So if you are dealing with some health concerns, your body's in a better position just from that alone to speed up the healing process. But the device also has a quantum tuning fork program in it. It has binaural affirmations that you can listen to in your own voice, and it will offset the frequency between the ears. So your brain hears it in a theta brainwave state. So if you're listening to your own voice, say positive affirmations, and your brain is hearing it at 8 hertz, it puts you right there on the border between alpha and theta, which is a very, very powerful way to hear your own voice talk about affirmations that you want to see happen within yourself. It can scan your body parts. It can, like you said, scan the emotions, your body systems. You can make your own remedies. You can take a shot glass and put in some water, and then you can broadcast or imprint into that water frequencies from a huge homeopathic database. And so those frequencies go into the water. You drink the water, or you can do it with sugar pills. Same thing. You're getting your own homeopathic remedies. And so these are all things that empower people to take health into their own hands, and they can do so without having to go to a doctor, get brought into the medical gulag. Hold on. I think someone's at the door. Hold on. I have to go. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Sounds fascinating, right?
He is on top of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And the Solex is his newest venture. And yeah, it's extensive.
Yeah, it's an interesting computer program.
Hold on.
It's very similar to one that I found in the 90s called EMC Square.
I locked my
but
friend
it's on
out
steroids.
of his own house. I'm at someone's house, and I locked the front door. He couldn't get in his own house. He was knocking at the door. Sorry about that. Anyway.
Before the show gets over, I want you to give that information if somebody wanted to get a Solex report done or come to your webinar, because we only have 4 minutes left.
Sure. Well, my website is formlessandtrue.com, and email and phone number is there. If they would like a scan or they just want more information, they can call me or email me. They'll be impressed with the information that comes. I had a doctor. Now, Carolyn wouldn't know this name, but there's a huge medical outfit in the United States called Kaiser Permanente, and they run a whole chain of hospitals and all kinds of things. And I know a doctor who works with this technology, and she told me that if you were to get a report like this from the hospital, it would cost well over $1,200 US. More than that. And probably more than that, because when you ask for tests, they only test for one thing, like your thyroid level. They won't give you a complete thing. Now, to be clear, this is being marketed as an educational tool. It's not designed to treat, cure, diagnose. Okay. However, if you know how to look at these reports and read between the lines, you'll know exactly what to do. And you're being given information without having to go into the medical system to find it out yourself. And then from there you can go to your healthcare provider or
the show's over. Thanks for listening to Life in the Hologram. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Caroline. And stay on here for Caroline's show, Navigating the Truth.